everyone. Thanks for joining this session. This is going to be Investing in Your Business Decoded, and I want to thank Tech by Choice for having me as a speaker today. This is a pre-recorded workshop, and so I will be communicating with you either in the Slack or if there's a Discord, however that's set up. I'll be there looking to answer questions, and I also will probably be hanging out with my kids at the same time. So if I don't get back to them right away, or if there's something that needs a more in-depth explanation, I'll definitely be in that app and be able to follow up with you throughout the day, even outside of the workshop time. So hopefully that's helpful. My name is Lucas Castillos. I'm a certified financial planner, and I'm the founder of Level Up Financial Planning and Power Up Tax Planning Services. So initially, I've had imposter syndrome when it comes to speaking about business finance because I very much am an expert in personal finance. But one thing I noticed over the last 3 years that I've been running my companies is that there's a lot of overlap. There's a lot of emotions, just a lot of different things that go into your personal finance that gets carried over to your business finance. So that's something that kind of gave me the power to overcome this, and also just being in the self-employed community now and just seeing a lot of these same things happening all the time. As a business owner, you're probably peppered all the time with different sales to you. So you might be in the business of sales or trying to sell a business or a product or a service, but there's also like hundreds and thousands of businesses trying to do the same thing to us. And it makes it really hard too, because some of them are enticing. They're promising more clients, more sales, more money, better future, all these awesome things that obviously we want for ourselves, but it's not always exactly like it plays out. So I'm going to give you the framework through this presentation to kind of think through this and try to have an actual process of thinking about different decisions when it comes to investing in your business, because as you can imagine, I'm sure you've made some good investments and some bad ones. And so I'm going to bring up the disclosures. As a certified financial planner, I'm required to kind of share this with you. It basically says that I'm not liable for anything. If you take information from this and apply it to your own situation as very specific advice, unfortunately, that's not the case. This is going to be a general kind of thought process that you should take. And I can't help you avoid all bad investment decisions or purchasing decisions. But what I can help you do is just give you a little bit more tools, a little bit more process to help you navigate these things. And while people can read this, I want you to go into that Slack or Discord channel, whatever we have set up through Tech by Choice and for that Hack and Learn today, and share if you've ever made a poor investment decision or poor investment choice, and just let me know what that is, and just like a 1 or 2 sentence why it was a horrible investment for you. While you're doing that, and again, it doesn't have to happen just now, I'll be on that all throughout the day. I want you to think about what an investment is. And so basically at the end of the day, an investment is something that you're either sacrificing your time or something else that's valuable, like money, to have a certain outcome, to have a situation improved. Basically, you want to come out better from whatever choice you make when it comes to an investment decision. And that's, if you just kind of hold that to the light, that's going to help answer a lot of these questions as you're facing things. It's not necessarily something that people think through sometimes, because they think, oh, I'm being sold this is what I need to go with and do, and it's going to help. If you have to think, well, line up the dots, line up the process of, if I use this, how is it actually going to get me to that outcome? So you may have shared with me a negative situation or a bad investment choice. Let's think about the positive side too, because this could help people as well in the Slack channel. Is name one positive investment, one good decision that you made, and again, one brief sentence or two why that's the case. And for me, it's Calendly. What that is an interactive scheduling link, and it just, I have people schedule meetings with me I've never met before over the weekends and in the middle of the night, all throughout the day. And if they need to reschedule, they quickly do that without it being awkward. And so I just love that little piece of technology. I don't even know how much I pay for it at this point in time, because it's so minimal compared to the value I get from it. It's ridiculous. And I changed from a monthly to the annual just because right away I quickly knew that if my business is going to be around longer than a year, then I definitely should invest in this because it does everything I need to and makes my life easier. So that's definitely one aspect. Calendly might not even be something that's appropriate for your business, but if that is, if scheduling meetings and calls is something that's a time constraint for you, a time suck, this is super cheap tool that will definitely help that out. And the topics we're going to cover is going to be basically how making bad investments is one of the greatest mistakes that business owners do make, and it's unfortunate, but it's true. It's because you're not most businesses are not in the financial planning game. They're not in just the financial management. There's something that you're really great at or very passionate about, and it's probably not finances. And so that's one of the reasons why that happens. Also, I'll help you decide whether or not it is going to be an investment or if it's going to be a money pit, because those are two very different things. And sometimes they look the same. Sometimes they actually can be the same thing as how you approach it and just being realistic about what it's going to take on your end to kind of commit. And then lastly, should you do it yourself? And yeah, that's important, especially if anyone's watching this is early on in the business process. There's probably going to be a lot of things that you do DIY it for or decide not to because of various reasons, but we'll talk through all those. So one of the greatest mistakes that business owners makes is just making that bad investment decision. And so the first aspect of that is that it's emotional. A lot of times, especially if you're a business owner, there might be things related to your business that are stressing you out. And so buying things might make you feel good about it. There's might be things going on personally. We're in the world, a year of COVID, and that's been crazy. So people sometimes spend more money on that. You'll spend money because you're bored. You'll spend money because you're excited and you want to celebrate. So you get a new client, you spend money. So there's all these different emotional things that if they happen, one of our go-tos is to go and spend money because it makes us feel good and it's fun part of life to be able to do that. And when you're trying to balance a business and all that is whether or not that actually makes sense for you. One thing that's interesting is usually you are trying to do what you think is best for your business. And that's one thing that is tricky, right? Because you're like, I'm trying to do everything I can. I'm trying to make the best decisions and I keep making poor ones, or I don't know what to do. I'm kind of paralyzed by, it's called paralysis by analysis. So there's so many different options. There's so many different ways you can take that you just don't do anything. So it can be frustrating, even though you are trying to do the right thing. There's also bad advice out there. And one of the ones I get all the time, and now that I'm doing taxes for business owners too, it's that just go ahead and buy this thing because it's a tax deduction. Well, if you think about it, let's say you buy something that's $1,000 and your effective tax rate that you're in, or your marginal tax bracket that you're in is the 24% tax bracket. If you spend $1,000, you're only gonna receive a tax benefit of $240 on that. So it's still gonna cost you $760 more than the cost, more than that tax benefit. So you still come out behind from a pure cash flow standpoint. It's never going to offset your full purchase. So just be aware of that. A lot of times people say, yep, I do this because it's a tax write-off. Well, no, it's going to help with taxes a little bit, but it better be actually for your business, and it better actually help you get some type of value that's you need to help your business keep growing for you. And so that's one thing that I see all the time. Another one I see is when people give you advice because maybe they've seen someone else have success, or they run a different type of business. And that's one thing you always want to compare and contrast is, well, does that relate to your actual business model? Because there's a lot of things that work for other businesses other than mine. And at the end of the day, I have to be able to run through that thought process of, well, how, again, is this going to actually work for me, because my business is different and you have to do the same thing. Like I mentioned, Calendly was awesome for me, but that doesn't mean if you don't meet people ever, that would be a horrible waste of money for you. So just make sure that things apply or could be applicable to your business. And a lot of times people just say, hey, this worked, and so you should do it too. And that's not always the case. And that happens a lot too with personal finance. So I've seen that quite a bit. Is your situation's probably going to be a little bit different than other people's. That's why it's better to have a thought process than hey, these are the things you should buy, this is the things you should invest in and spend money on, because that's going to be all different for all different types of businesses. Another reason why people make this mistake is because of vanity. So wanting to show off. I know one of the things that a lot of financial advisors, especially like the salesman ones that work at like the life insurance companies sell big commission products, they'll be driving around in like BMWs and Mercedes and things like that. And that's even if they were like just starting in the industry and maybe not actually making the money for that. But in their mind, they're saying, yep, this is going to help me get clients. This is how people are going to think I'm successful. So there's some vanity to some of the things that you might think to purchase. If you're in the construction business and you buy like a super heavy duty truck and it's super brand new, but maybe that's not the best thing financially to do at that time. Maybe you should have bought used. Maybe you should have bought something a little bit more smaller, affordable. Like there's vanity that could cost you if you don't have that in check a little bit and make sure that it actually makes sense financially too. If you can afford it and you want to do it, that's different. But it's when, if you're like my business in the first 3 years, like I'm trying to be as efficient as possible. I'm not trying to waste money. I'm not trying to do things extra and above if it's not actually going to give me extra and above benefits for my business, not for me personally, but for my business to continue growing. And again, you're just trying to do what is you think is best. And sometimes people just say, hey, you have to spend money to make money. Mostly true, but just spending money isn't actually going to help. So just because you're spending money doesn't mean it's going to bring people in. You have to be smart about it. Praying could help. I'm not sure, but you just want to be intentional. You want to, again, be able to connect the dots from, if I do this service, how am I actually going to get to that end result? What do I need to do? What's that process going to look like? And make sure that it does make sense, because there's so many things, again, that are never going to work for you, no matter how much money you spend on it, if it's not right for your business, if it's not right from the standpoint of the work that you might have to put in. Because a lot of times, especially early on, is it's somewhat do it yourself. Even on some of these tools, you might get access to them, but then you have to figure out how to use them. You have to, to make sure that you use them the right way and not making yourself look silly. So it's important to be aware of those things. So when you're thinking about whether something is a good investment or not, or if it's going to be a money pit on you, it helps to have numbers and then make it measurable. And so what I mean by that is, obviously there's going to be a cost to it. So that's one part of the measurement is, hey, how much is this going to cost me? Sometimes it's time. Most of the time it's money and the financial aspect. And then when we look at the benefits of it, it's going to be, well, what's that return on investment going to be? So again, try to use dollars. When I ever try to make plans or projections for anything, I think of best case scenario. Great, that's fine to get excited about. Most of the times that doesn't happen, that the best case. Worst case scenario, hopefully we can avoid that. That's one that you have to be comfortable with in order to confidently move forward and make a decision. Is, yep, if this doesn't work, this is kind of the bare minimum of I expect. And then there's the middle of the road. This is most likely what's going to happen if I do this. If that's the case, if that's most likely thing that's going to happen, are you going to come out ahead? Is it going to help you move your business forward? And so that's important. And then there's time to see return. I think this is one that I just see people get thrown off by a lot of times. You might make an investment in something, but it's like a super long play, like a 2 or 3 years, this thing is going to start paying off. Well, if you don't have 2 to 3 years, or if there's something that you can get that same return on investment over a shorter time period, you just have to be aware of these things and be able to line them up. You can use an Excel spreadsheet, you can use pen and paper, but you start putting numbers next to these things and you're like, oh, I could get 100% return if I go with this thing in a year, or a 200% in 5 years. Well, it's not the same thing. Those things, obviously, that quicker turnaround, that 100% in that 1 year. Well, if you replicate that those next 3 years, you're going to be so much further ahead than implementing that one that's a longer wait. And obviously, you're probably investing some resources in it now. And so it's good to line those things up as far as what's the actual benefit going to be? How long is this thing going to actually take? And you might just do like a lot of quick, short hit, quick return on investments at lower amounts. But if you kind of build these things or piece them together, they might be way better than a big investment that's a really long-term play, and it'll give you confidence. It'll keep you busy and working while while you're building up your company. And not to say that you throw those other ideas out the window. Those could be something that is when you're ready for it, once you know that you have that runway to make it there and still be in survival and still be alive as a business. That might be something you kind of put a pin in and say, hey, this is something I'm excited for. It's a goal for me to do next year, but there's all these small things I can keep getting quick little wins, quick benefits from it and return, and continuing to chug along and build my business that way. And again, when you're kind of using an Excel spreadsheet or putting these things side by side, don't try to make these narrow decisions. I think that's one thing where a lot of people get stuck is like, nope, this is the only way to do it. This is the only product. This is the only thing. There's I don't even know, like 100 different types of bread you can buy at any given grocery store, different ketchups, all different kinds of things. And that's the case for most business products, business services, and anything you can dream of. Basically, there's usually more than one. And so why not compare the alternatives? Why not compare things that might get you that same benefit? Maybe it's a lesser known brand or a less sexy of looking product, but if it's going to get you what you need to get, just compare these things side by side. Because if you save money here, and here and get the same results, then that saved money you can use for additional investment into your business. So it takes time to kind of change and rewire the way that you think. But if you slow down, if you're not in panic mode, and you are able to allow yourself like to go through this process and structure of how to think about things and try to think logically about it, try not to let your emotions drive you. I mentioned that return on investment, that high number. Try to avoid getting caught up in that high number, because again, that's probably not going to happen. You need to be comfortable with that middle range and make sure that's going to work for you. And so it's not just money, right? It's not just money. It's not just sales that you could get a value of. Sometimes it's something that's going to save your time. That Calendly example I provided, that saves my time like ridiculous amount. And so sometimes if you're able to save time, then you're able to use your skills, your knowledge, your expertise in the way that's going to actually make the biggest impact for you. So if you save an hour, and that gives you an hour to actually do something that's adding a lot of value for your business, then that's makes sense to do most of the times. I know early on in business, if you don't quite have the funds to make that happen, you just have to work extra, probably longer than someone that would have resources to be able to make these investments. But at some point, it is going to make sense for you to start investing in things that are going to save you a ton of time. And how you can find out what that value of your time is, even if you're not there yet, it's the dollar amount you want to earn and the hours you want to work. So you take the dollar amount that you want to earn in a year and divide it by the hours you want to work in a year. That's going to tell you this is your kind of hourly amount. And so mine is $250 an hour is basically how I value my time. Yours may be different depending on how you're doing it. So if I'm going to be able to invest in something, I'm just going to throw out a number. I think Calendly maybe at most is like $10 a month for me, even though I pay it annually. And that saves me, I'd have to say, probably easily like 5 hours over the course of a year. So it's saving me over $1,250 a year. And it over the course of a year, it's maybe cost me like $120. That's a really good investment. And that's how you can approach these things when it comes to, well, yeah, it might not turn into actual money, but it's going to give you time where you can go and actually make real money and make that return on investment by using your resources. If you're more established business and you don't necessarily need to grow, you don't need to build, that's more time for you to do the things that you enjoy. It gives you more time to spend with your family, hang out with your buddies, hang out with your friends, sleep, nap, go on vacation. There's so much value in time. And yeah, there's a bunch of different ways you can choose to use it as well. So the last main topic is going to be, should you do it yourself? And so I actually created this for my personal finance clients because it's helpful. I provide a service and they need to understand how to think through this process. And this actually relates to anyone that ever has to decide on should they invest in a service or product. Well, can you afford it? That's pretty crucial. If you can't afford it, it's kind of a no no go just right off the bat. It could be one of those things you stick a pin in and come back to later in the future. Once you can afford it, I know I've done that with a lot of different technology pieces that I've thought like, yep, I'm not there. I don't have any clients, so why would I start paying for things early when I first launched my business for something I might not use for like 2 months or 3 months, or actually have enough clients to get the true benefit out of it as far as how much it costs. But once you start to grow, once you grow into it and you can afford it, then that reopens the conversation. Do you have the time? Again, this is something, time is valuable. You might have the time, but is it the best use of your time? And so that's going to help you, that previous example, the dollars you want to earn over the course of a year divided by the hours you want to work over the course of a year, that's going to show you whether or not you should be spending time on these things. Do you enjoy doing it? So if there's one thing I like doing, and I know I'm going to have to give it up at some point, is marketing. I made all these slides. I do all my own marketing. I enjoy it, but at the same time, I know I'm probably not the best at it. And so that's something that, even though I enjoy, I can't wait to give it up, because it means that my business is growing and I'm successful and I'm able to start doing those things. But there are going to be those things that you run into. Do you enjoy it? Is it actually impacting your business though? Because you're applying too much time here when it could be used better elsewhere. What if you mess up? That's really the crucial one when it comes to people deciding to work with me. And so, and I'd say it's crucial for any decision. If you're going to mess something up trying to do it yourself, just think about trying to fix your own dishwasher. If you jack that up, if you are working on your house and you mess something up so bad that it ends up being even more cost than what you're trying to avoid, well, then that kind of defeats the purpose of DIYing it, right? You're going to probably use a bunch of your time, stress out to no end. And if you mess things up worse, then it costs you more in the long run, especially if it's like a client facing issue or a customer facing issue. If things just look bad and it gives people a bad taste about you, you just kind of killed your brand, your product, whatever it is, to that person. And that's something that I was always scared of with the marketing stuff early on. Luckily, I feel like I've gotten better, but I'm sure there's people that saw my stuff early on. It's like, yeah, this guy is not anywhere close to someone I'd want to work with, because he doesn't seem like as professional. Things aren't as clean. This was before COVID, where everyone was doing virtual, and I've been doing virtual my whole business that I've been going. At the end of the day, it's going to be, are you going to receive that desired outcome? So if you're going to do it yourself and you think that you kind of check these things off on that, in that more positive standpoint, where you're like, yep, I can make all this stuff work. I don't mind doing it. I have the time, I have the energy, I enjoy it. I'm not going to mess it up. I'll get the same desired outcome. Well, maybe you should do it yourself, but there's going to be a lot of things that, at least eventually, once you get to that point of I can afford all these things, there's going to be a lot of things you're going to be handed off. There's going to be things that you don't want to do it yourself. And that's, at the end of the day, it's, are you going to have that success, that desired outcome that you're trying to achieve? And so that's important when you're just thinking about the investment again. So I know I've shared this at the beginning. I just talked about it, but this is the guiding light. It's kind of the North Star. If I do this, am I going to get what I'm expecting? And then you kind of have to work your way through that process. You have to think about the cost to you, the benefits, the investment of your time, if it's going to take time and energy that you have to pour into it in order to make this additional thing you're paying for, this investment that you're paying for, work for you. Because yeah, a lot of times I think people spend money and they're like, oh crap, like I have to actually still work. I was hoping someone else was gonna do it. There's products and services like that sometimes, but a lot of the times it's nope, you have to figure it out, or you have to find someone on your team that's gonna be good at this, it's gonna be their baby, and they're gonna be able to do these things. And you have to make sure that you're able to bridge that gap from, I'm investing money in this investment and I need this outcome and this is what I'm expecting. Well, you have to take ownership that something, so you have to follow through on that process to make sure it actually runs to completion, to that desired outcome that you're hoping. So that was a fun and quick presentation. I hope that you enjoyed it. I hope it gave you a few ideas. I hope that even some of the poor investment decisions, some of the good investment decisions was helpful to you in the Slack. And any questions that you have, feel free to reach out, shoot me an email. I have it here on the screen. It's Lucas at Level Up Financial Planning. And then you can see my two different businesses. I have the personal finance business, the levelupfinancialplanning.com. Then I have the tax planning, the poweruptaxplanning.com. Feel free to look over those resources, anything there try to create a bunch of free stuff. There's a lot more on the financial planning side because that's the business I love. That's what I really enjoy doing. And the tax planner was just a natural complement to my clients that I help on the personal finance. So that's why that one exists. So thank you for joining me. I know it's a Friday, but I look forward to answering your questions in the site group, and reach out anytime. Obviously, I enjoy helping people, so I'll always try to give you the best information and point you in the right direction if I don't know the answers. And thanks again to Tech by Choice for putting this on. It's been fun. Looking forward to next year, seeing what the Hack and Learn is going to be about, and the demo days and all that fun stuff.